Hi, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Politics with Sherry Jacobus. I appreciate that you are a subscriber. And if you're not, I hope you'll hit that button and help me out. And also check out my podcast over on Patreon, where I do interviews each week with newsmakers, politicians, journalists, sometimes celebrities. Uh, no one is coming to save us. All right. I know I've been a little Debbie Downer this week. Mark Elias, a few of us are getting real about this. We did let this happen. I had a conversation with a Democratic strategist this morning by phone. I'm not going to say who it is. He'd probably be okay with it, but I'm not going to. Um, and he's someone that he's also very concerned. We have been at this for quite some time. I've been at it for 10 years, warning everybody what Trump really was. And we are only now just really seeing it and accepting it 10 years in at a point where it might be too late. I'm not giving up, nor should the rest of us. And anybody says, well, I'm just going to block her, she's going to be negative. I think we have to be real. It's not negative, it's real. We have to be real. We spent too many years trying to get somebody to make us feel better, taking your money so they could post cheaply produced videos on Twitter that looked like you were fighting real hard against Trump and MAGA. And then they weren't really airing those ads to, reach voters that needed to be reached. It was so you'd open your wallets. We had people that we never heard of before telling us, "Oh, Merrick Garland's on the case. This is happening," and it wasn't. And we were lulled into a false sense of security. I think that Joe Biden was an excellent president. I do think, however, that he just didn't want to deal with the reality of what was happening in the country. His entire life and all the decades of service, very commendable service to his country. When it reached the point where it was clear this was happening, I think maybe he just didn't want to deal with it. I don't think he wanted Merrick Garland to deal with it. Something happened there. Something happened over the course of the past 10 years. Collectively, maybe all of our institutions had just gotten soft and weak. Remember, Russia always said, Khrushchev said, we will destroy America from within. We're the big sleeping giant. And we actually believed some unknown internet trolls saying, oh no, Merrick Garland is on the case. And some of it was our own naivety when we could not believe that there would be, for example, Secret Service agents that would sell out, and they did. That there would be people within the FBI who might sell out. We actually believed that even if they were appointed by Trump, they would do the right thing. No. Jeff Sessions, Trump's first AG, he shut down investigations into Trump and Trump world for things that they did. We let Mueller just kind of let things go. We didn't impeach. We could not accept the fact that someone like Trump really existed and was taking hold. Now, some of us understood it, but the powers that be, when they still had power, didn't want to believe it or didn't want to be the ones to do the hard work of freedom. One of the things about having older people in office, they have a lot of experience and they know things. But I think they also just don't want to take on the big stuff in the twilight of their careers and of their life. I don't want to be the speaker that impeaches a president. I don't want to be the president who, has to get rid of an attorney general because he's not doing his job. At any given time, we could have had lawmakers, demanding that Merrick Garland step aside, publicly demanding that he step aside because he wasn't doing the job. We could have done it, and we didn't. And we still, I saw a tweet or something, maybe it was Blue Sky. Someone said, Americans are not reacting strongly enough to what is currently happening. We're just sitting here waiting for somebody to come save us. We watched the 800 top military brass that were forced to be flown to Washington from all around the world, all at Quantico in the same spot. Very dangerous right there. Also very expensive to be insulted and threatened by a draft dodger, rapist, convicted felon, money launderer, traitor, who's not a legitimate president, and by some morning talk show host, some alcoholic with his hair gel, telling them they can't be fat, they can't wear beards, they're allowed to hit people now. Oh, and if they don't like it, they could get up and walk right out of the room now. You know what? They gave the sworn oath to the Constitution and to the American people, not to Trump and not to Pete Hegseth. Now, I don't know. We have this fantasy, including me, that these are the ones who will save us. Not one of them clapped or cheered, and Trump was unsettled by that. He could fire them all, and then not going to have anybody with any talent or expertise to protect us. That's dangerous as well. But I'd like to think that first and foremost, men and women in that room have an oath to us that they know what they have to do. And no way will they, after their decades of service and rising to that level, well, they're going to let this idiot do this to us and sell out their beloved country. It might be a fantasy. We need somebody to save us because we didn't save ourselves when we had the chance. We didn't. I'm not trying to make people feel bad for the sake of making them feel bad. But we do have to be grown-ups about this and accept responsibility for how we let this happen. Okay? Because we did. Because we did. And I suspect there are some MAGA now who understand what's going on. And if they're not too stupid, this could be what they like. They like this stuff. If these are your friends, I'd ask yourself why they're your friends. Or they kind of know now what they did, what they facilitated, that they're at fault for this, and they don't want to admit it, so they'll just double down. They'll just double down because they're weak, because they're idiots, for whatever reason. But these are not just political differences anymore. We are beyond that. We are beyond that. I don't know if it's too late. Obviously, it's getting later, and nobody seems to be doing anything about this. I guess we can still win somewhat in the course, but the longer we allow Trump to be this bulldozer out of control, the snowballing of the fascism, the authoritarianism, the treason, the brutality, the worse shape we're in. We talk about it. I'm doing what I can. There's only so much I can do. And I realize that, I guess we are individually, limited in what we can do, but we can control how we tolerate this or don't tolerate this in our personal lives. Are you just going to accept it? Well, they're really good people, except for that whole Trump thing. Oh, gosh, folks. Really? People are already dying and have died because of Trump and his policies. This is not going to be good. And he's ruining our economy on purpose. He's just pilfering. I mean, we bail out Argentina so they don't have to shut their government down. But yet, Trump shuts our government down. Republicans have the White House, the Senate, the judiciary. They have all the branches of government. And they shut the government down. And people are going to be hurting. Maybe that'll make some MAGA drop him, but it might be too late. And I hear people say, well, in the midterms, do you really think that we're going to have fair midterms, free and fair elections for midterms are in 2028? Stop being so naive. Do you really think, after everything we've seen Trump doing on a daily basis, yes, he is like Hitler, on a daily basis, we see the brutality. We see him just smashing the Constitution. We see him breaking the law. We see the immorality, the criminality, the brutality, the lies, the treason on a daily basis now. Do you really think that a man who has done this his entire life, because this didn't start when he became president, if you look at the history of him, Trump is capable of anything. He's been doing this his whole life. He isn't doing anything once he became president that he didn't do his whole life before that. It was harder in his first term because there were guardrails. But this isn't new. I do believe he's a sociopath. And we've had other people say that too. We are in extreme danger right now. Even MAGA, they just don't know or don't care. Or they'll be in denial. Or it'll be too late and one day they'll come ask your forgiveness for what they did and hold them accountable. This is happening. And I think it is extremely naive and irresponsible to think, well, he's done all these other horrible, horrific things. The list is too long to even go through. Oh, but he won't do anything to stop free and fair elections. Really? Really, people? He clearly needs to be stopped before the midterms. At this point in time, he's decided that Antifa is a terrorist organization. Antifa is not an organization. There's no funding. There's no headquarters. There's no secret handshake. There's no meetings. There's no Zoom calls. There's nothing. There's nothing formally organized. Nothing. He even calls it Antifa because it sounds scary and exotic instead of anti-fascist, which is what it is. And it merely is, I guess, a belief system that, yeah, as Americans, we should be anti-fascist, like our brave men were in World War II. Okay? That's all it is. But if Trump or Stephen Miller decides that you're Antifa, you're a terrorist, he will have you arrested and you will be charged with terrorism. That's it. That is what he is doing. You think that he just one day decided to label Antifa a terrorist organization because he got, a brain fart in his head? No. This is for a reason. And he has instructed them, his military and anybody on his side, to start looking for people who seem anti-American. What's anti-American? Anti-Trump? I'm anti-Trump, but I'm very pro-America, at least the way we used to be. He literally is going to label anybody who posts anything or says anything against him, against his ICE agents, in opposition to him, in disagreement with him, as Antifa, a terrorist, a member of a terrorist organization, and he will have us hauled off. And if you don't really think this is happening or can happen here, then you haven't been paying attention. What can we do? Okay, how do we get rid of Chuck Schumer? Because at this point, I think he's complicit. He can very easily be defeated in a primary in New York by AOC. It would not surprise me if Chuck Schumer has cut some deal with Trump that he will not let the party do any meaningful opposition against Trump as long as Trump ensures that he wins his primary in New York. Similar to how Susan Collins somehow came from behind to win her Senate campaign in the state of Maine. Leonard Leo played a big role in that. She was behind. She was supposed to lose. Remember, Karl Rove famously allegedly told a whistleblower that if a state is within 3 percentage points on election night, you can cheat undetected, not on mail-in votes. Well, I think that they broke their rule for Susan Collins and they took it a little further because she was lower. She was further back than 3 points. And yes, I believe that's what happened in 2016 that put Trump over the line to win the Electoral College. It was just too clean, too neat. And the way those 77,000 votes that were perfectly distributed among those 3 battleground states, it's like a 1 in a million chance that they could be distributed just in that right way, but not enough to trigger an automatic recount. You understand what's going on here? Remember, Paul Manafort gave Kalimnik, Putin's guy, internal campaign polling data in advance so they knew where to be set up. That was a crime. Then on election night, they knew where to set up. They knew how to be ready. On election night at 5 o'clock, the media consortium has they do secret exit polling. It's a group of all the major media. They, at 5 o'clock on election night, while the polls are still open, they release it, still secret, to the media organizations that are part of that consortium. And they are supposed to hold on to, but they usually know who won. Well, a guy by the name of Chris Vlasto, who was friends with Dave Bossie, Mr. Citizens United, the guy who was the deputy campaign manager for Trump at the time. At 5:01, Chris Vlasto of ABC News got a hold of that. See, he wanted to be Trump's communications director. Jason Miller kind of stabbed him in the back, but yeah, that's the kind of guys they are. So Chris Vlasto, ABC News, calls Dave Bossie with the Trump campaign, said, here's the numbers you lost, and here's where you lost, or here's where you're losing. So while the polls were still open over the next few hours, remember, Trump looked at Melania and said, we lost when he found out. So Reince Priebus knew this. Clearly, Manafort, Putin got these numbers right away. And over the course of the next 3 hours, those 77,000 votes perfectly distributed among those three battleground states meant that Trump won the Electoral College. Yeah. Chris Vlasto was given a promotion. He didn't get the White House communications director job. He got a slap on the wrist at ABC, and then they promoted him. This goes back to me, the original thing. Chuck Schumer has to go. I don't just think he's too old and complacent. I think he's dirty. Nobody is this stupid that they let this happen. The fact that we can't even have daily fact-checking briefings from the Capitol on Trump and this administration is criminal negligence as far as I'm concerned. And I want our Democratic House and Senate members, especially the Senate, to publicly call for Schumer to hold these briefings publicly. It's cheap, it's easy to do. You do it in the Capitol building. Somebody can give up their hideaway office in the basement of the Capitol. And every day we will be on the news, in the same news cycle, in the same news stories and reports as Caroline Leavitt or Trump with whatever lies they're spewing. Chuck Schumer is standing in the way of this, and no one is asking him why. So we may have our individual Democratic elected officials. Maybe the ones in the House think they can't, publicly do it, but they can go to Jeffries. Where are they? They may say the things what we want to hear in their own messaging, but they aren't standing up to their leadership. I first proposed this idea in early February, soon after Trump was sworn in. It is now October. So at this point, because we have no other recourse, and I know that we don't want to go down hard on our elected officials, our Democrats that are doing a good job, but we must demand that they make this happen. And they need to publicly demand that Jeffries and Schumer do this. It's fine with Ken Martin. He's not doing anything over there at the DNC. Remember, he said he was going to have a people's cabinet, shadow cabinet. That didn't happen. But again, these briefings need to be done in the Capitol because that's where the press are, in the House and Senate press galleries. It would be their beat. There is no excuse for this not happening, except Chuck Schumer must be dirty. Because he ain't stupid, folks. He's not stupid. And the only people that can get him to do it are our elected Democratic officials. So I guess what we need to do is get real loud, get an answer from them. Get an answer from them. Not, oh, they agree. That would be a good thing to do. Get a commitment from them to get an answer from Jeffries and Schumer. Look, we got to do something. There are very few things that we can do, but we can do that. And if it means going publicly hard against your elected Democrat, then do it. You can say, well, we're all on the same team. What does it matter if they aren't going to do anything to help us win, make our team win? We'll all feel good holding hands as we go down the tubes. I'm sorry, but that ain't good enough.